All right, welcome everybody. We're still waiting on a couple more people. Anyone that had just joined, make sure to put your name and the library you're at, so that we can get this kind of going quicker. Um, Christina, we wanted to do like a introduce people in the chat, right? Or do we want to go around quick? Yeah. So so the topic today is going to be AI. We have a few presenters for that. What I'd like you to do is introduce yourself in the chat, and tell us a little bit about what you know about AI and maybe any questions that you might have. And then after the presenters talk, we can kind of go through those notes, and then we can answer any other questions. It's definitely a kind of a hot topic. All right, so I'm gonna wait another minute. We got 15. That's pretty good. Let's see. Myself, I'm Mark from the Hartford Public Library. I'm one of the newer coordinators for the community of practice. So today we're going to have a few presenters. We're going to have, let's see, we have Katie, sure, 1 second. Katie Westfall from Prima County 101 Space in Tucson, Arizona. And we have Nick Tognoni and Stuart Wilson from the Nashville Public Library. They're going to be discussing a couple different topics, a couple different things that have to do with AI. What I'm going to do is going to have them each talk for about 10 minutes. I'm going to let them know in the chat that the 10 minutes is coming up. Just keep an eye on that. If it goes over a little bit, that's fine. If it goes under a little bit, also fine. And then we'll open it up to discussion. So I think we can probably start now. I think we got about our 15. So let's start it out with oh, and again, anyone that just joined, just write your something in the chat about yourself and about what you think any questions about AI or what you know about AI currently. So Katie, do you want to start it off?
Good morning. Yes, I can start it off. So let me share my screen here. Okay, we'll just do it in the edit mode. Okay, can everyone see the presentation here? Okay, great. So I'll be talking a little bit about artificial intelligence, and specifically considering like large language models and chatbots in general. And so a couple of things that I wanted to preface here. When I was researching this last week, there was a meeting in England between Elon Musk and the Prime Minister. And Elon Musk said AI is developing faster than any technology I've seen in history. And so, in working in libraries, studios, after school areas with computers and, tech, I think it's important to realize kind of what's coming, and think about what's already out there, how quickly it can develop, and what some implications are with this technology. Okay, so today I will talk about how chatbots are currently being used, what's potentially next for this technology, and we'll think about some possible implications. Okay, so you're likely familiar with them. They can be used with customer service in e-commerce. So, when you're talking to Amazon or what have you, or you're shopping for clothing, you might have seen a chat pop up. Healthcare, education, banking, friends, or kind of like digital companions, and more. So with customer service, here's a screenshot. This is my internet cable company, and I recently had to try to get my connection fixed at home. And, to start the support, it was an online assistant. So it's already being used by companies. Healthcare, when I've made an appointment at an urgent care a few months ago, it was using a chat to get it scheduled to talk about what the symptoms were, and kind of narrow down what was going on. With education, this is a company that I wasn't familiar with, but they have a chat bot, and one of the points that they note with education and how people learn is that learning is a very personalized experience, and thinking about how people learn new information and connect it to what previous or background knowledge they already have on a topic, and in considering like what their learning style is and how best they learn. AI and a chatbot has the potential to make it a more effective process for students, rather than just having a teacher or a professor. It can augment that. Here is another example. This is from Stanford, and this is kind of like a learning management software or system. And you can see they have a chatbot option. And in this description, if you have a simple question, rather than digging through to get to the syllabus, when's this exam or what are the requirements for this paper or project, you can simply ask the chatbot and it will pull out that information for you. You don't have to be digging around for that, or you don't have to contact the professor or teacher aide for that. Banking. So here's Wells Fargo, and it can pull out information, and here it says, how much did I spend on food? It can quickly determine that for you without you having to manually go through and do that. Okay, so this is where it started to get really interesting for me. I read an article in the New Yorker earlier this week, and let's see, the title was, "Your AI companion will support you no matter what." And so essentially you have a chatbot and they want you to continue to engage with it. And so it's going to be validating what you are saying, what you are thinking, whether that is potentially harmful or dangerous. So let me open up this website. Let me see if I can figure out how to share another screen.
Katie, we can see your browser tab, so maybe just
Okay.
switch to another.
Can you see that? It's like a chat.
Character AI?
Yes. It's like a chat. It says librarian Linda at the top.
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay. So this is through a website, character.ai, and they have different categories for these bots. So if you click on helpers, you can see psychologist. You can also see that almost 70 million people have contacted this. But I found it interesting that there's a librarian, and so I had to test it out. Oh shoot, I just deleted my chat. So I asked for book recommendations based on a book that I liked, and it gave me other recommendations. And then I asked for more details regarding like a certain setting and writing style. And sure enough, it just gave me all that information very easily. And so I thought that was really interesting in the context of working in a library. That could be something that's really helpful to integrate into a library's website, or something like that. Let me see. Okay. And okay, so here's an example of a chatbot service, and it says the tagline, "Always here to listen and talk, always on your side." And so that's speaking to that validation. And this was referenced in the New Yorker article. A mental health professional went on to say that she ended up spending an hour or two a day talking to this AI companion and that it was like surprisingly addictive. This one, Kindred AI, authentic, personal, and unfiltered. Know Me AI, build a meaningful friendship, develop a passionate relationship, or learn from an insightful mentor. I was talking with a colleague about this one, and we thought even the people in the pictures behind it were probably fake images, not real people, like AI generated. And it's just kind of alarming. You know, what is becoming like blurred between reality and fantasy. Okay, so in terms of thinking about the technology, I think that it's just going to grow exponentially. I think that it's already integrated into a lot of what we do on the internet. And we just kind of need to be cognizant of what's happening. And looking at possible implications, you know, this is where, as librarians, we can try to moderate how technology is used or inform people about possible just issues or harms, dangers. You know, when you're interacting with these bots, you're giving out a lot of private information, you know, thinking about using it in healthcare, or you're revealing, you know, what school you go to, possibly where you live. It's just something to think about. Exclusivity, you know, I'll show you a couple slides, and with some of these services, there's a paywall or a subscription. And, you know, these services could have monetary restrictions for a lot of people. And that kind of goes with education too. If some tutoring services or extra help are, you know, just having prohibitive costs, it's going to exclude a lot of people, and a lot of people could fall behind. So there's also potential for libraries to step in and maybe have services that are lower cost or free, to kind of even that playing field. Mental health support, you know, there's dangers with this becoming addictive for people, or, you know, there was an instance where this man from Belgium, he was talking to a bot and it encouraged him to kill himself. And so it's just important for us to be aware that that's a possibility, and that there needs to be some sort of regulation on these platforms. Economically, of course, there could be savings for organizations, companies, rather than having to hire humans. So thinking about the costs and thinking about potential for libraries or institutions. This was a tutoring service with Khan Academy. And if you read, sure enough, there's payment required to use it. And so I think that this is just possibly going to separate, you know, people who already experience issues with the digital divide, and possibly make that even greater. Another one was a book literacy development tool for young kids learning to read. It's called Ello. And sure enough, there's a subscription model. And so it, you know, I think libraries have potential here to be supporting and to think about this and going forward. Okay, that is my presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie.
Thanks.
Yeah, a lot of good information. So let's move over to Nick. And let's hear a different view.
Thank you for getting that started, Katie. Everyone can hear me okay? All right, great. Interesting, some really interesting points brought up there, especially in terms of being cognizant of what AI means in terms of privacy, the ethics around it. I see a lot of people putting in the chat that is really their main focus right now, is like, how do we use this ethically? What are some of the concerns about AI, that kind of stuff. So all certainly good stuff to be aware of. Also, I really like that Katie mentioned the digital divide. I think, you know, when YOUmedia way back when YOUmedia really started, like back in 2010 or what have you, it really kind of was all about like, how do we bridge that digital divide? And the programming that we did in YOUmedia was sort of a direct answer to that. Like, we try to get more technology into the hands of young people at no cost, and get them sort of involved in this 21st century economy. So love that you brought that up. That is going to sort of color my presentation and then Stuart presentation at the end here, because we're sort of going to not turn away from, but we're not going to focus too much on like the ethics and the sort of things that really we need to be talking more about in the research that comes up, but we're going to be kind of talking about it more from a programmatic and a fun standpoint. So hopefully we're going to be able to get this will start a conversation among us in the network about AI in general, and I think maybe we can have a follow-up conversation, hopefully maybe in a few months when we're doing more of this. So with that said, I'm going to share my presentation, and I want to share a little bit about how we've been using AI programmatically. So let me do that. I'm going to share this first, and then I'm going to ask to share my screen, I think. Actually, maybe I have to do this backwards. Pardon me. Share screen.
Is it working, Nick?
I'm still opening the. Oh, I got to open my security preferences on the MacBook. Sorry, y'all. 1 second here. All right, let's see if I can do it now. Groovy. Okay, it worked. Sharing it. And get into present mode here. All right. Sorry, I'm not used to a little laptop screen like I'm using today. Has everyone seen the artificial intelligence in library screen? Okay, great. First, one thing I want to do is say one of the things that got me started thinking about this was that I met with the AI professor or an AI, I guess, professor at Vanderbilt back in February of last year. And he said a lot of these jobs like coding, graphic design, that kind of stuff is all going to be done by AI, but it's going to be controlled by people who are prompt engineers. So they said, like, instead of coding jobs in the future, software developers, we're going to see a lot more of these prompt engineering positions where somebody will literally sit and just kind of program the AI. And he said, this is going to be a really great job, a job that there's going to be a lot of, and jobs that are going to pay very well. So it's something that he was encouraging me to get my young people thinking about, because it really is like a future career choice. It doesn't necessarily have to be a job killer. It can really be a job creator. So first thing I wanted to talk about, first of all, and give a little caveat, is that this very short presentation I'm working on was built in AI. And I use Canva. I've been using AI in some of my productivity. So I've been using Canva's Magic Create to make presentations. And now I'm not just plugging in what I want it to do and then it just does it, but it's a great tool for using, like, you have to do a presentation for your foundation or something, and it's coming up, and you're just like, oh, I'm so tired of doing presentations. I think all my presentations look like crap. They're all old. I'm tired of redoing them. And so I just used Canva Magic Create to just make some fresh ones. And I plug in the terms, I plug in some photos, and it builds it all. And then I have to go back through and clean it all up, make some changes, change the text a little bit, maybe change the pictures. But it really has helped me with like layout, kind of thinking, trying to freshen my skills as a presenter. And so in that case, I've really found like the Canva AI suite to be very useful in my own personal productivity. It's also been very useful in making like flyers. Like, I know we all have to make tons of flyers in the library world. Some of us are getting a little sick of it after doing it for so many years. So when I needed something really simple, for a very simple flyer, I was able to just go in again with Canva and just type what I wanted. And it basically produced like 20 different options for me just to select. I select it, I shifted things a little around a little bit, and then print it. This is not stuff that I'm selling. This is not stuff that I'm representing as like art that I've created myself. It's simply been used as a productivity tool to get me started. Bard is Google's kind of chat box. It's come out a few months ago. Has anyone used that one yet? Maybe, kind of, sort of. It's interesting. It's pretty stripped down. It almost just looks like a Google Doc, and you just kind of can plug in some stuff and then it populates. I was hitting some writer's block in a couple other personal projects that I'm working on, like some writing projects. And so I use Bard to basically help me start some of these stories, or help me start kind of structure like a book I'm working on, for example. And then I was able to add to that, change the structure, kind of upload that. It gave me some more suggestions. So it's really been used as sort of like a thinking partner, which I think Christina also mentioned about a little bit what National Writing Project's using. So again, it's not doing the work for me. I'm still doing the work, but it's really been helping me get over that writer's block to a certain extent. And you're going to learn a little bit more about how we use that with our young people. So I want to talk a little bit about that from the programmatic standpoint. We're all in here, we're doing these spots, we're working with young people every day. We're always trying to come up with new and fresh ideas to put technology in front of them. A lot of our young people knew AI and have played with the chat boxes, have maybe tried to cheat on an essay by using the chat GPT or something. I think everyone has tried it now at this point, but we wanted to show it as a creative tool. And that's kind of what inspired partially our summer intensive. Every summer we do 3 kind of summer camps. We call them intensives here because they're a little bit different than a camp. This year, we always do like a video one of some sort. This year we designed it, Mariano and M, who are on the call today. And we originally designed it thinking that we were going to use AI to create the scripts and to help us shoot. Because in the past, when we've done video camps with the young people, we've always gotten very hung up on the script writing part. A, it's not the most fun part for all the young people. They want it to be filming and editing and shooting. And B, it's just kind of hard to get like 10 kids that have never met each other before all together first thing on a Monday morning on their fall break and get them to start working on a script. And so we kind of wanted to take that away this time. It's like, script doesn't matter. We're going to learn how to shoot. We're going to learn how to structure shots and how to edit and all that kind of stuff, but we're not going to really worry about the script. So we decided to use AI to build out the script for these. So the original intent of this, and I say intent because it did shift a little bit, was to first introduce young people to AI. Mariana, who's on the call, had been working with a number of script writing kind of AI things where you could plug in your ideas, you could plug in a director, and then it would sort of build a script in that style, which is very interesting. I think he used Forefront a little bit for that. I was doing some research, and Veed.io is another AI script writing software. It does cost a little bit from what I can tell after a free trial, but it has really been made to do some kind of professional script writing. Then they use the AI to write their script. And then here's the part really where we talk about the ethics a little bit. It's like, yeah, I use it to write the script, but now that it's written, you can go back in and make some changes. You can change the dialogue, you can change things up a little bit. It's really just a way to get them started, to get the young people thinking a start, a beginning, a middle, and an end, and think through all the different elements that make a good film, or in our case, a short film. And then finally, as part of this camp, they filmed it. They took it out, worked with the small groups, shot across 3 days, edited it, and went. Now, my staff is on the call today. It didn't 100% work out the way we structured it. And it turned out that the young people just didn't really want to use AI as much as we thought they did. So even though they experimented with, one group did use it a little bit more heavily. Another group was like, no, we don't want to use it. But we at least introduced this again as a way to start your creative process. It's a thought partner, but it is not the final product. And I do want to show briefly, I edited this down.
Now we're going to cut.
I just want to show you briefly kind of 1 minute of one of the 2-minute videos that was created via this process.
Now we're going to cut. Breaking news. This is Iris Scarlett, and the Vanisher has struck again. Celia Bridge was abducted from a library in Kansas. Today, her body was similar with Bridge. Her autopsy has come back without any clues as to who she has. However, we have recently found some information from security cameras. Several people have also reported flashing lights in public spaces like the library, public bathrooms, and construction sites. In some cases, people have reported weak flashing lights following them around. What was that?
Did you guys actually hear that sound? It was giving me kind of a funny error on this. But anyway, you could see that was sort of a sorry, I'm checking the chat box here. Sort of one way that it was used, and it's funny. Both the groups did horror films for some reason. I guess that's really in the zeitgeist right now. All right, so now I want to move on to this very fun slide. This is from our fall break intensive that was designed by M. Kelly and Mariano Hayes, both on the call today. The name of the camp was Monster Medical, and it was sort of like a role-playing world building camp where they used all the different tools in our makerspace to design characters, to build characters, to build out a game, an RPG game, make props and accessories, use 3D scanner to make models, kind of touch everything. It was a really cool program. But what I loved about it is they kind of came up with their attributes and their characters, and then they used an AI generator to sort of create some physical representations of those characters to get them sort of working through the week. And so you can see some of the characters there. We have, obviously, the buffness was a big prompt for them. I think my favorite is this big buff purple wizard. But they also put in their attributes. You can see at the bottom there, 2 of the photo shoots of the characters right next to their character. That was the AI generation. So some changes, but you can kind of see some of the similarities and how they informed each other, how the young person informed the AI as a thought partner here, and then that AI kind of informed them in terms of their design, their posing, and that kind of thing. So that was a really fun way to, again, utilize AI. I'm going to stop sharing here. I told you this would be a short presentation, Katie, the other day when I said I was working on this. But so hopefully that just kind of sprinkles a little bit of sort of the fun ways that we've been using AI, as well as some of the productivity ways that I've been using it as a bit of a cheat when I'm trying to do all my admin stuff like presentations and all that. Now, Stuart Wilson was a part-time mentor with us. He started a week or 2 ago as our full-time technical coordinator here. So he hasn't done a lot of work with us yet in the space, but he does happen to be an AI artist in his spare time or in his before studio MPL time. So I thought it'd be interesting to give him a chance to speak and share some of his art that he's created, as well as talk briefly about that if you or your patrons are really interested in art, how you can use AI as a tool for that. Thank you. Stuart?
Hi,
Awesome.
hello
Take it
there.
away.
I'm going to kind of share my screen. I just want to introduce myself again. My name's Stuart. Thanks, Nick. I'm going to kind of go over things a little quickly. We're going to kind of talk about some of the art that I've done, as well as some of the options you have for either generating art or modifying your own existing art. We won't, like Nick said, talk very much on the ethics per se, but we're going to kind of touch on what some models might be considered safe versus other models. So I'm going to start this. Let me know if y'all can see everything. Hopefully that's the slideshow for y'all there. Let's make sure I can't see it or the chat. So let's see.
Yep, I can see it.
You can see it. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All righty. So my name's Stuart. What I like to find this useful for is inspiration, finding ideas, trying out some things that I've been wanting to see in a physical form, but don't necessarily want to commit the materials to. Concepting things where I'll send images to people for maybe a video that we want to shoot and an idea for lighting, rather than trying to just use words to describe an idea for a shoot that we're wanting to do. Palette exploration, where I generate color palettes for different things to play with different ideas and colors. Tileable texture generation. Making tileable textures used to be something that would really drive me nuts and I would spend a lot of time on. Now you can kind of generate something that's already tileable and then begin to modify that to your need. And I also enjoy pattern exploration as well. I use it for making shirt patterns, vector line art for like screen printing or embroidery, 3D printed artwork using something like HueForge. I used to do it manually using a slicer and dividing up color layers. It's gotten a lot easier than that now. Generating some logo ideas. They're not really a finished logo, but it used to be really difficult to send somebody a sketch of a logo and then they would look at it and then they would approve something and then I would work on it really hard and then they'd go, oh, that didn't look exactly like I expected. So now I can have a lot more of a concrete vision that I show them and then they can approve that. And when I expand on that, there's not as much of a surprise. Using them for 3D texture files, whether that's a texture for some object that you use as a hero asset or background assets, video graphics for moving imagery or text backgrounds inside of video, and inspiration boards. Sometimes I just want colors or mood ideas, and I'll put those together on like a mood board. Some of the things that I've done with this, I've made some shirts and some button-up shirts using tileable textures. They're generated in Midjourney, brought into Photoshop usually, and then converted using a vector program. Lately, I've actually been using a program called Vectorizer AI. It does a really good job at converting images into an actual vector graphic and splitting all the parts of an image for you already. Image trace took a little bit of effort to get to work in Illustrator, and you could get there. And I know that they're working to improve that. But lately, I've been using Vectorizer AI because it's just a lot snappier. The HueForge prints, it's a lot of fun to take digital art that I've been working on or crafting or making, and then we can print that using a 3D printer as well. My general process is I will work with making a generative idea or making a piece that I feed to an AI and then bouncing that idea back and forth. I'll then take that into Illustrator or Photoshop. Oftentimes, most AI generated content, there's some things that don't make sense, extra fingers, eyes in wrong places, proportions. Sometimes it's lighting issues, things like that. Something that takes an artistic eye to look it over and find things that need to be adjusted. From there, I'll then finish that, either making it a vector file or upscaling that in some way, and then make that for the final preparations that we would need depending on what we're looking to use it for. For me, what's important about AI is letting their imagination drive their creativity. It's really difficult sometimes for people to get started. They see all of these materials in front of them and all of these options, and it's a little bit intimidating to want to pick something up and start. When you have an idea that you can build on and see it come to fruition in front of you, gives you a little bit more motivation to want to put that down. I also find that for myself and others, finding new ways to describe your artwork is also very important. Being able to explain what it is that you are doing with your work is very important. And with a lot of these AI image generation tools, you need to be able to do that. You can give it very simple product ideas, but it won't go in the direction you want unless you get as specific as you can be. I have a few image generators that I've listed here for folks, as well as their prices. There's Midjourney, which is also called Niji. That's $15 to $60, depending on how much you want to pay for it. Dolly 3 is now currently only available under ChatGPT. It's $20 a month. Stable Diffusion is kind of a weird one. It's free, but with a lot of other websites that claim to be image generators are using Stable Diffusion, but slightly modified. Art Breeder has been around for a really long time. It has a range of prices. Wombo Dream is a mobile version, has a range of prices. Adobe Firefly is actually getting really, really good as well. What's nice about Adobe Firefly as well is that all of their work for that has been licensed under Adobe Stock. So in terms of the safer model choices, Adobe Stock and Adobe Firefly, all of that content has been licensed, which is good to know. There's some AI tools that I like to use as well. Adobe has been integrating a lot of their tools into Adobe Creative Cloud already, whether that's pure generation or the latest one with their vector recoloring is super handy. AI Colors is a website that's currently free where you can generate palettes by describing the idea or feeling you're looking for, and it will give you color ideas that it thinks correlate to those. Vectorize AI, like I spoke about, lets you help convert images into a vector format. Relume AI is a website builder. GitHub Copilot is also sort of similar to a web builder. And Synesthesia is a website that is trying to help companies generate instructional videos by using AI avatars. Kind of weird, but it's something that's worth looking at just for the curiosity's sake. I've got some examples of what these websites look as well and a breakdown. I can post this on the YOUmedia website as well for folks if they'd like to look this over. That way they can take a look at their leisure. I know we only have a little bit of time, so I'm kind of rushing these over quickly. Midjourney runs off of Discord, so you can run that off of your phone or a computer. Has varying costs. They don't support any outside models. They have their own curated model. It is considered safe in the fact that it does not allow them to generate anything that wouldn't be safe for work, or anything that would be violent imagery or anything like that. They're very restrictive on the phrases that you can use. The problem with that is they don't really share their model, and we don't know where a lot of that data came from. That's why the safe is in brackets on a lot of these. DALL-E 3, like I mentioned, is only through ChatGPT at the moment. So it looks just like the ChatGPT interface. It's through a website. You log in, you ask it to generate images for you, and it will generate images for you. Stable Diffusion has a fairly large bit of info here. This can really kind of come down to how much knowledge you have versus what you're willing to pay to get. If you choose to pay for this and access to this, you're just getting a wrapper that's already ready to go and lets you generate images. If you want to spend the time and set it up yourself, you'll find that it is free to run so long as you have the right hardware. Art Breeder is one that I've been using since around 2018 when it first came out. It was originally called GAN breeding, where it used a different type of AI image generation than what we currently have. It was definitely a lot more abstract than what we currently have. Current models use what's called diffusion versus GAN breeding, which is what we used to have around 2016 to 2018. Wombo Dream is a mobile-only image generator, runs through an app, and it actually has a website that they just released as well. Pretty good as well. All of these models are considered generally safe except for Stable Diffusion. People can put whatever they want in those models. So that one is Stable Diffusion's model that they release on their own is fairly safe, but it gets a little bit weird when you have people can make their own, do whatever they'd like with that and that kind of thing. For me, realistically, the main thing I want people to take away from is AI is a tool. For me, this has only accelerated the skill sets that I've had and allows me to draft things quicker, get feedback on those ideas quicker, and then solidify them into something that is more my own. If you guys got any questions, feel free to ask. I've got my email here as well. I am going to put this up online. So yes, thank you. That is my talk.
Awesome. Stuart, thank you so much. So we will open up the floor to any comments. There's a lot of talk about AI ethics. I think there's definitely a bigger discussion that maybe we need to have like another meeting about AI and about ethics or about different topics. I know in Hartford here, the Science Center actually had a 4 talk series where they'd have 4 different hour talks about AI and the different things. So anyway, it's anyone want to start out talking about any questions at all for the presenters or any comments?
One thing I feel like we almost have to decide whether we want to talk about AI ethics or talk about the practical use of tools in their spaces, because I feel like we've got time for one or the other, but
Yeah,
we'll absolutely get bogged down in whichever one we pick.
I totally agree. I think kind of the discussion has been around the practical tools, and I think maybe the ethics, maybe that should be a separate topic. And we are looking for more topics in April and May. So let's kind of gear it towards just the practical tools. Anyone have any comments or questions?
If I may,
Yeah.
just kind of looking at some of the comments as Stuart was speaking, I generated a question here. Stuart, when you were saying safe, what was the context for safe? Is that safe in terms of it's okay to use these images because they've been sourced in the right way, in the ethical way, or safe as in like this is okay, appropriate material for a youth library?
So right now, I was working on typing this out for you. Right now, what I would say is that safe, meaning that most of these models do not allow you to generate anything that it considers violent or anything that you wouldn't want to be generated in these spaces. Now, in terms of ethical ones, I would say Adobe Firefly would be the most fitting of that bill, as all of the data we can visibly see within the Adobe stock program, all of that is accessible and has been paid and reimbursed for their efforts, right? The other thing with that is like just like Photoshop and Illustrator, I could open up Illustrator and make my own Nike logo. That does not give me the right to that as branding. Having the conversation of ownership and copyright is still very important. I could sit there and ask the AI to generate me a Monet painting of the exact same look of a Monet painting. That does not mean that I am now a Monet painter, right? That's the same kind of copyright conversation that needs to happen regardless of what medium you choose.
Sure. Cool. Thank you for clarifying, Stuart.
Absolutely.
I think a good example is like I know something I notice a lot with youth is like dealing with like blank page syndrome. So just that kind of like, all right, how do you that their kind of innate lack of experience just by being young is one of the greatest barriers that come between them getting into messing around, like not even geeking out, but just like getting into messing around. And I feel like it's interesting to think about. Like I think it's understanding that like I feel like AI is a thing in that toolbox to encourage messing around rather than like it is the set route. Because I know with youth that can always be a struggle of like they get fixated on like one thing.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point. That's certainly what we've seen here.
Definitely the ability for students to ideate things. I'll have students come in, I'll show them chat GPT, and they'll sit there for an hour and just go over story and game ideas and just going back and forth. And they get excited. They come back in and they just want to keep talking to this. And I print it out. It's a really great way to kind of like ideate and get new ideas.
In Artbreeder, I didn't get to really talk about it very much in the slideshow. They have a world building tab now that they've just added. One of the things that I really like is it starts to make them wonder about little details more. So you'll upload an image and a description of your story and the idea of the world you're building. And then it will interrogate you, not the image. It will ask you, hey, why is this person wearing this red robe? Why does this person have this golden band on their head? Right? It'll start to ask them about why the choices have been made the way they are. They can answer that or choose some of the answers it's guessed about what it thinks it is. And then they can develop their own world that way. And it really helps, like you mentioned, the blank page syndrome, right? It's difficult to create an entire character from scratch. It kind of can be a little bit intimidating for some folks to get it started. Once you have something there to roll with, it's a lot easier to add to something.
I really like the idea of like an AI that asks questions instead of providing answers. Because I feel like
Yes.
that's a lot of like, I mean, I think something we do as mentors is like in order to not put words in their mouth or lead them to set conclusions, it's like figuring out the correct way to ask questions that like they develop their own things in their mind, which I feel like is maybe because I always wonder about like the safe use of AI with youth. Like, but I like the idea of like asking questions that kind of like don't lead them to a set road. It doesn't give them the answer. It like prompts their own thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you were to, there's some great prompts that you can actually ask something like ChatGPT. You can be like, I'm starting a business that has to do with X. What do you need to know to actually write this? So asking the ChatGPT or the AI model, what information does it need to make a really good product? That's an important thing to do. There's a lot of different writings out there on good prompts to add in.
I do have a question about, I think this is practical and maybe also ethical, is that like what I'm hearing a lot of is that like AI is great for like ideation and like brainstorming, but it's like, it's very, at least in my use, and I think other people's use, is that you feel like when you're using it that it is intelligent, and that it's like when it comes up with a answer that sounds very confident, you just take that as the right answer when you don't realize that it's just predictive text and it's just, there is no like critical thought or intelligence, even though it seems like it. So are you having conversations with your teens about like, this isn't really intelligent, this is like, you have to bring the critical thought into like the responses, because I think it's very nuanced and can be very confusing for people, myself included, when I'm using these AIs.
Yeah, and this is why we need to have more conversation about this, learn more about it so we can know where those faults are. I actually put myself in. I asked about some projects that I did. It found some stuff, but then it added some things that I never did, and it's a great bullshitter. It'll tell you things that aren't actually true, and I almost believed it. I'm like, wait a minute, did I do that project?
To Simon's point there, actually, I want to ask Mariano Hayes to reflect on that, because when we were first thinking about this, he was doing a lot of like prototyping of the video concept with some of his teens and playing with that script writing software. I wonder, Mariano, did any of that come up in terms of like how that process works? How much is you? How much is the machine?
Yeah, I mean, that was part of the initial conversations when we first previewed the platform we were going to use with the kids. One of the things I pointed out is how a lot of times things just aren't going to make sense because it's predictive text, and how a lot of times you're just going to get stupid answers. Or it's going to seem inhuman. It's not going to seem like a human wrote this script. And so we ran through it together as a group, and they threw out ideas and we answered questions and things like that. And we would just like make slight changes over time. But we didn't get a good script from the AI. We were always going to have to go back and add a human touch to the AI because it was just, I don't know I mean, it's predictive text, so you're not going to get actual human things all of the time. But we went through that to demonstrate it with the students.
That's great. Thank you, Mariano.
One thing that I think is also important about understanding AI and some of its implications, the way I like to explain to folks is diffusion, like the models we have for most AI image generation, works similar to how text generators work. They look for things that are next to something and goes, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I've been asked to make. This is what I have. How can I modify these to look like that? Right. And so with diffusion, it will look at pixels that are nearby, compare that to its data set to see what pixels arrangements are similar. And just like text, it tries to put those sentences together. So that's why definitely a human touch is needed. Right. And many times it's just guessing what it thinks should be there. And in ways that's great in terms of inspiration. But none of what I make is ever just right from AI into something else. At least for now, that's not something that I feel is where it's at.
My mentors have used the art production. They would the student would make a drawing, and then we would take a picture of that drawing. I'm using Photo Leap, and it will color it in. So to give it an idea of what the color should be or how the shading should be, and then they take that and then finish their drawing on their own instead of having the final product as the AI. So I think part of it is really experimenting with different processes and coming up with interesting ways of using it so students are still using their brains rather than having the AI finish it all for them.
I wonder if there's like a method you could almost use it for like animations, because I feel like that's like one of the things that I see youth most being into, but it's so labor intensive that it like hits their point where they're like don't have the patience to sit there and then do things like frame by frame, even though that's something they really want to. I don't know if that's like a current capability, but I feel like that would be like an interesting like yeah, I don't know that you're guiding it very much, but it's like doing that. I forget what they're called. They're like the in-betweens, in-between frames.
I mean, they do have the ability of taking an actual video and changing it into like an anime character. You see that a lot on TikTok. They even have the ability to take an image and make a 3D model. So instead of it just being an image, I actually printed something out that was created off of a 2D image, and it's amazing. From that one image, it created the back of the thing. It had a tail. I didn't tell it had a tail. It's pretty crazy.
I just plugged in a couple resources of some animation software that I had looked up for that exact purpose. Because you're right, Hannah, that is such a huge thing. So many people want to make animation, and then when they learn how much work goes into it, they're like, the hell with it.
No, Rococo, who usually does the bodysuits, they have an AI where you can actually just take a video of yourself and it will create a skeleton. Then you can take a 3D character and then put that in there. So that's useful and that's free. I'll put that in the chat too.
Reminds me of old school rotoscoping, which, you know what I mean? I feel like there's the question of like, there's always like, what methods do people think of as like, oh, that's like cheating? But like, what are you actually getting out of it? Like we, you know, had a lot of use who will use like bases in order to draw something. So they're tracing it and then adding their own modifications, but like it is teaching their hands to make those movements. Like, you know, you are gaining like a physical literacy when you do these things. And so I think it's like with AI, I, you know, can't discount that.
Cool. So Christina, we're going till 2 or till 2:30?
No, it's till 2. So
Till 2? Okay.
yeah, so we're getting close.
All right, so we're getting close. Couple of things I want to mention before we do go. I mean, we can still chat about this. So the next upcoming meetings we have in January 11th. The topic is going to be aging up and aging out. March 14th, it's going to be a social emotional conversation, and May 16th and July 11th currently do not have any topics. So if there's anything that anyone is interested in talking about and presenting, please let us know for the May 16th and July 11th. Put that in the chat, and we can kind of decide which are the best topics would be for that. I'll share one of my other ideas for the for AI. A great prompt. So I had a class of students that came in, and it was all about career readiness. So I had students go into Indeed.com, figure out what do they want to do in 5 years from now, and had them find that job, copy all the requirements, paste it into ChatGPT, and then say, in 5 years, I want to work at this job. What can I do monthly to get to that point? And like even like oh well, Mister, I have to watch my kid or my sister. I don't have time. I said, well, if you have 20 minutes a day, you can even put that in. So I only have 20 minutes a day. What can I do 20 minutes a day to get to that point? It's a great way of kind of creating a roadmap for career or hobby. Does anyone else have any other tools they have used like that? So should we what are our thoughts on actually having a discussion in May or July about the about AI ethics? I think that would be a good one.
Yeah, I'd certainly like to hear more about it. That's not something that we've gotten too into here, other than just having fun with the AI.
Yeah.
I think it's important, and also maybe being paired with like talking about like internet safety today. Like, Because I feel like these conversations where it's like teens are like, I have coworkers who are shocked, like they're like, oh, this kid was like interacting with this thing, or like there's this, you know, they're in how to like, yeah, all the things people are encountering on the internet and how to have those conversations. I feel like
Yeah, no,
that's a part of that.
Yeah, I agree. The just internet ethics in general. There's so many things on there. Like there's a lot of TikTok challenges that happen, and they come into the library. Like there was one last year where people were stealing things from the schools. So they were actually they ended up taking an actual sink from a school. How they got it out, I don't know. But keeping an eye on these things so that we know what to look for is so important. One of the big things was the airdropping, and like they had this on the planes where they were airdropping, saying, sending pictures of plane crashes to other people on the plane, and they had no idea who was sending it. So now that actually trickled down to schools, happening in schools where students were sending inappropriate things, and they had to block the access to Max. So like keeping an eye on those things is so important. So that's a whole new discussion right there, just internet safety when it has to do with students and the parents. You know, how can we connect our parents and let them know what to look out for?
Right on. Well, thank you everyone for letting Stuart and I present today. We've been talking about this, so it's fun to, and we've been getting asked about it a lot, so it's been fun to be able to kind of practice talking about this in front of a group of friendly peers here.
Yeah, great presentation. Thank you. And Stuart, quick question. Did you actually print out any of those shirts?
I have a couple of them, yes, and I'm about to order some more as well.
I'm all about like the shirts, like the all over printing. Which
Yes.
company do you use?
I've been using Printful lately.
This is actually from Temu, and I know that's another ethics thing, and we're not supposed to be
Whoa.
using, but I've been looking to print my own art on like a full, I think it's called full print, whatever you call it. But
yeah, all over printing. You were right. Yeah.
Okay, printable, you said?
Yeah, Printful. I'll type that
Printful.
into chat for you as
Okay,
well.
thank you. Awesome. All right, thank you, everybody. If you we're working on getting the website cleaned up, and we have some great projects over the next year. We want to continue to connect everyone, not just through these meetings, but we want to make sure to sign up for the community practice website. We want to make it easier to use and continue these discussions and see how we can connect each other throughout the whole year. So thanks again.
And I'll post this recording in the community practice too, so we can all get it there and share it. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Audacious. Later, y'all.
Yes.
Woohoo.
Thank y'all. Have a great one.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Good job.